Well, after some delay, the conspiracy case against a Navy lieutenant and his wife was brought before a federal judge today. However, the couple did not physically appear in court.
You may remember the couple's home in San Jose was raided by federal agents back in October. According to the U.S. District Court, Fan Yang and Yang Yang were involved in the illegal sale of guns.
First Coast News' Nick Perot was there today. He updates us now on what was revealed in court.
There are really two reasons why we're talking about a trial date nearly 6 months away from now. The first being some of this information that could be introduced during trial is classified. That information would have to have proper approval to be handled by anyone, such as a law clerk. Prosecutor Michael Cooligan says in his experience that process of approval could take anywhere between 30 and 90 days. As for information they plan on introducing and adding to this case, some 1,900 messages, including emails back and forth, they have yet to introduce. Now again, Lieutenant Fan Yang and his wife Yang Yuki Yang face conspiracy charges, federal charges to defraud the U.S. by importing and manufacturing firearms, as well as exporting illegal items to China. Now there is a detention hearing set for other co-defendants in this case 5 floors down. That too was postponed to January. Again, the Yangs are expected to be in trial, have that begin on July 6th. We're outside the federal courthouse. Nick Perot, First Coast News, on your side.